Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third Ordinary Council meeting for 2024 and the last for this current term. I'll commence by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Butchla people, and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Ordinary item number 1 is our opening prayer. Let us pray together, each of us according to our individual beliefs. Grant to this council wisdom, understanding, and sincerity of purpose for the good governance of the community. Apologies. Do we have one apology from Councillor Hanson?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I have an apology from Councillor James Hanson, who has a family emergency he has to deal with.
Do we need to move a motion to accept that? We just note it. Oh, so we do? We just note it, yep. Ordinary item 3, disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest? Item 5.1, confirmation of the February minutes. Is there a mover that we confirm them? Councillor Paul Truscott, seconded. Councillor Heggie. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 6.1 at pages 13 to 45 is the open resolutions register. Are there any questions on this one?
Yes, Mr.
Yes, Councillor Truscott.
I've just got 2 questions, just to confirm with, firstly, page 32 of the Open Resolutions Register to Director Keith Parsons, just to confirm about the item regarding the land at the Maryborough Airport between the clubhouses and the terminal building, just to confirm that we are still looking for that to come back in April.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Truscott. Through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, my officers are working on that, and a draft report is under development at the moment, so I feel comfortable that it will be on the agenda for the April meeting.
For April, yeah. Thank you for that. And the second one, Mr Mayor, was to Director Gerard Carline on page 37 of the Open Resolutions Register about confirming that the item regarding the Maryborough Pound facility next door to the Maryborough Animal Refuge, about looking for lease options there, and I understand that's to come to the May council meeting. So just to confirm that's still the case.
Through you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Truscott, for the question. Just confirming that I've spoken to staff and we are on track for the May council meeting.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. There was only one speaker at community presentations this evening, and that was Mr Grant Cameron. Grant spoke on the need and benefit of a beach sand area above high tide to undertake social beach volleyball activities within the Scarness and Torquay area of the Esplanade. That's my verbal report, Mr Mayor.
That's carried unanimously. Item 10.4, the Fraser Coast Events Advisory Committee meeting minutes for November, pages 93 to 96. Is there a mover that these be accepted? Councillor Welling, seconded Councillor Phil Truscott. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.5, the Fraser Coast Events Advisory Committee meeting special minutes for the 11th of December, pages 97 to 99. Moved Councillor Wellings, seconded Councillor Heggie. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.6, the Wide Bay Water and Waste Services Advisory Committee meeting minutes for 16th of February, pages 100 to 105. Moved Councillor Lee, seconded Councillor O'Keefe. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.1, request for lease, the Fraser Coast Motor Museum Incorporated, pages 106 to 131. Councillor Lee? You're moving that council refer this matter back to the CEO for further consideration by the council after the caretaker period. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Phil Truscott. Any speakers or questions? I think it's very good that there's progress on this. I understand that the reason we can't proceed with it so quickly is because the caretaker period. Is that correct? Yeah. Yeah. So there is progress, and this is looking good. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.2, the Elected Member Induction and Training Program for 2024, pages 132 to 137. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Chapman, second Councillor Paul Truscott. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 11.2.3, the Scarness Beachfront Tourist Park Fees and Charges Amendment, pages 138 to 139. Is there a mover for this? Councillor Lee. Is there a seconder? Councillor Lewis. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried 9-1. Item 12.1, requests for a report on the options for providing a short-term lease of the Maryborough Airport Terminal Building, page 144. This is moved Councillor Paul Truscott. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sanderson. Councillor Truscott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one's pretty self-explanatory. You won't need the timer. Just to, this group has been, trying to establish on the site there, and just want to put it on the record for everybody that they're doing a great job, and there's going to be the opportunity for that terminal building to be opened up soon as the current lessee is vacating, and they're only looking for a short-term lease until they can occupy their own space. So I think this is a great opportunity for them.
Yes. Councillor Lewis.
It's just a question, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering about whether this perhaps the idea is that the report would deal with this aspect, but I'm just concerned a little bit about the idea that we dispose of property to a particular organisation without calling for expressions of interest or tenders or whatever. I recollect that at the last meeting, some councillors expressed considerable concern that the master plan for the green sward opposite here tended to imply that one particular organisation had the front running for that property, and the master plan wording was changed to make it clear that wasn't the case. So I'm just wondering whether this raises issues in relation to that question, or is it something that would be dealt with by the report and then addressed at that stage?
Yeah.
Yep, thank you for your question, Councillor Lewis, and I can respond to that, Mr. Mayor. The answer to the question is that the issue around our normal practice, where we call for expressions of interest, will be considered and addressed as part of the report that comes back to Council.
Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 12.2 on page 145 is the request for a report on the feasibility of constructing beach volleyball courts along the Esplanade in Harvey Bay. It's moved Councillor Lee. Is there a seconder for this? Councillor Chapman. Did you wish to speak to this, Councillor Lee?
I will speak on this briefly. We've heard the presentation today. I think in terms of the timelines, this matter was looked at some years ago. Subsequent to that, we've developed the Esplanade Master Plan. So I think that it's really important that the operative word is consideration for listing in the budget. That's the first point I want to make, and I think that's important. And it talks about the feasibility of constructing a beach volleyball court on the Esplanade. So I think the terms of this resolution is sufficiently broad enough for council officers to give due consideration to that. It's not just about recreational volleyball. There is opportunity, I think, for constructive competitions. We've heard about crowds potentially attracting crowds, in close proximity to amenities, cafes, and so that whole concept that we've talked about with the Esplanade Master Plan, we've talked about creating a water precinct and encouraging water sports, and I think it's an opportune time to assess the feasibility, some analysis around this. I'll say it again, and I've said this before, the sports precinct is not a catch-all for all sports. I think we can do a few things really well out at the sports precinct. It doesn't necessarily follow that every sport should be out at the sports precinct. So I'm all for encouraging various sports participating within Hervey Bay itself rather than out at the sports precinct. I think this is a good opportunity to look at that. I've certainly seen Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, Glenelg, Adelaide, where it works really well. So I think it's an opportune time for us to reconsider this matter and further explore that and assess the feasibility along the Esplanade for this particular sport. So I encourage my colleagues to support it.
Mine's a question at this stage, perhaps to the CEO. I'm just a bit confused as to what the resolution means. List for consideration for inclusion in the budget, a report. Are we talking about listing for consideration in the budget funding for a report on the feasibility, or are we talking for a report to address the budget, for a report on the feasibility prior to the budget to address the question of whether we provide money for construction in the budget?
Thank you.
It's not at all clear, but it makes a big difference.
Yes, yeah, thank you for your question, Councillor Lewis. And my understanding is asking for funding to be provided in the list for consideration, funding for a report to be developed to consider beach volleyball on the Esplanade, and that report would also consider both competitive and recreational. And the reason it's listed that we're asking the resolution is listing for consideration and development of a report in the budget is that the advice from the director is that we don't have internal resources to do that. We'd have to engage a consultant to assist with that. So it would be an expenditure item and to develop that report, and that's what we're asking to be listed for consideration in the budget. Money to fund a report.
Do we have a ballpark for how much that's likely to cost, or is that going to be part of the budget considerations?
I couldn't tell you what that ballpark figure might be. I don't know if the director has a view on that.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor, through the chair. I did look at the option of preparing this report internally, as the CEO said. Obviously we don't have the right expertise internally to look at the native title issues, the area that might encroach into the tidal zone. So we really need to look at engaging a external service provider to do this work. My estimate, to do this, is around the $40,000-$50,000 to get a consultant to prepare a report, a detailed report that will provide sufficient information for council to make a decision on.
I'll speak on the motion when it's my turn.
Speakers? I think it's your turn. Yes.
Councillor Chapman's being very accommodating tonight. As I was about to say, as usual, perhaps it's a special occasion. Yeah, look, I'll vote for the motion, but I have some concerns about it. There'll be I would think quite a lot of work to be done to understand the feasibility of this. The question of scoping, the question of location of of appropriate land, and the cost of construction, the cost of maintenance, and so on. So I have some concerns about it. I don't have a problem with it as a general concept, and you know, were there space enough, then that's fine. I take Councillor Lee's point that the sports precinct isn't the answer to all questions, but the fact of the matter is that the Esplanade isn't the answer to all questions either. That's really limited space, and even, you know, 60 by whatever it was is presumably a bit more than a tennis court or a couple of tennis courts or that equivalent. It's starting, you know, it's hard to think of places, as the directors indicated earlier in the public participation segment. It's hard to anticipate places where you're going to fit that without a significant impact on existing facilities. But nonetheless, these are matters that can be considered at the appropriate time. I just want to take the opportunity, since it's my last, to flag a few cautionary notes. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. And I'd like to just state that I agreed with everything that Councillor Lewis just said, but except about the tennis courts. The Fraser, the Harvey Bay in the early years was made up of all tennis courts along the Esplanades, and there was a golf course in Point Vernon, which went from the Pines and headed north along the Esplanade. And I think that we should be getting back to a bit of fun on our Esplanade, and that's what this beach volleyball will do. Is when I went down to Broadwater and I saw the young people playing sport there, and we've got young doctors in our hospitals that would love to be wanting to play sport. These doctors are already playing beach volleyball, and we want to be able to hold these people in our region. One of the biggest things we've got is people in that mid-age group of young people. There's nothing for them to do. There's no real interaction in this community for them to find a bit of fun. And that what I saw down at Broadwater and I've seen in other places with beach volleyball is it's a great place for people to go and interact, meet young people and enjoy themselves. And what we're looking at here is doing exactly that. So let's get back to have a bit of fun on our Esplanades. Let's enjoy what's going on. And if we have to spend a little bit of money to try and boost this for our economy and boost this for the enjoyment of a better community to live in, let's do it. Thank you.
Just while we're talking about beach volleyball, so the submitter, Mr. Cameron, was talking about something a bit different to this as well. So that's a separate process? That's not going to wait for this. I mean, this is something that could happen in the budget. He came here and specifically spoke about identifying a better area on the beach. Yeah. That's going to happen too?
Yeah, absolutely, Mr Mayor, and it might be orders of magnitude easier to do a social beach volleyball courts than professional or competitive beach volleyball courts. So I've already spoken to the director, who's putting his mind to is if that's possible without having the need to do a full-blown report.
Mm-hmm. Any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 13.1, naming of the council park on Peterson Road, Craignish, pages 140 to 141. Councillor Wellings.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to move that council refer this matter back to the Chief Executive Officer.
Yep. Is there a seconder? Sorry, can you say that again?
Just exactly that. That council refer this matter back to the Chief Executive Officer.
Yeah, for further consideration. Yeah. Oh, you refer it back. Seconded, Councillor Truscott. I was actually looking at him. I was looking at Bill. Any speakers or questions? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. General business. Is there any general business? Councillor Chapman.
Mr Mayor, I would I'd sadly like to move a condolence motion here tonight for Mr Norm McLean, who's the owner of Susan River. I'd like to move that if I could do a condolence motion, Mr Mayor. Do we need a second?
Yeah, seconded, Councillor Paul Truscott. So the motion is that we move, note the passing of Norm MacLean, and stand for a minute silence. Yeah, then we'll speak to it. Yeah. Yeah. I'll put that motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Councillor Chapman?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Norm MacLean was a pioneer of the area. He was a father of 6 lovely children. Norm has also created a lovely environment out at Susan River with horses, and he's getting a caravan park getting going, which is a lot of people are using. But he's also put a lot of time into the hard yakka to see young youth, and he was always there for the turnouts and to see those young youth they've been put through that program. But his last venture was Norm's venture was the workers' camp out there. How he was putting the workers' camp together, and but Norm, I knew Norm very well in the community, and you could always go up and you could have a yarn to him, and he was a character of joy and kindness, and he put others before him. He always, if we go out to the awards nights, Norm was there. Norm wasn't there looking to try and win an award. He was there to enjoy the night, and that's how Norm was. He was always a smile, and I would actually like in this condolence, I'd actually like the council to write Norm's family a condolence letter and say he'll be deeply missed within our community. And Mr Mayor, I'd like the councillors and staff to rise for a minute's silence for a genuine man, Mr Norm MacLean. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Norm MacLean.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Norm was indeed a very kind, thoughtful, considered man who really was a friend to so many, always very, very considerate of other people and wanting to help, and a real character, a really remarkable, unique individual who really made a mark on this community, but also helped people wherever he could and touched a lot of lives. He's very, very incredible man. Very will be missed by a lot of people. Yeah, he treated people well. Thank you. Is there any further general business? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Perhaps we'll bring forward do I need to move a motion to bring that forward?
Unless I think there were councils that were looking at doing a speech in general.
Yeah. No, we might as well do it in general business. We've got a
unless the council wants to do it later and suspend standing orders to do that.
It's probably better if we do it now, yeah. If that's right? Yeah. Did you want to move that we suspend? Yeah.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Can I move to suspend standing orders, please?
Yeah. Do we need a seconder for that? I don't think we for procedure motion. Oh, yeah.
Can I suspend standing orders to share encouraging messages between councillors as it's the last meeting for the term?
Okay, that's seconded. Councillor Sanderson. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Councillor Truscott.
Do you want me to go first? Sure, I'll kick it off. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be as quick as I can. I'd like to begin by thanking all of my councillor colleagues for the journey over the last 4 years. What a term it has been. Kicking it off with COVID was something none of us would have ever expected, and the challenges that it would bring. But we got through it. There's been ups and downs, and we got through them too. I can't believe how fast the 4 years has gone by. David Lewis. We sat next to each other through last term, and it was an experience as we navigated the ups and downs of that time, and I appreciate your guidance through that. I'm grateful for those memories that we had and created and the life lessons learned along the way. And so I want to wish you and Susan all the best as you step into retirement and wherever life takes you next. Thank you to you. David Lee. Being in separate towns, I didn't get to work on a lot of projects specifically with you, but where I did, it's been a pleasure to work with you. You work hard and you don't give up, and that's a fantastic attribute. It has done you well so far, and I have no doubt there's still big achievements ahead for you. Keep up the good fight, and wishing you all the best as you take on your next challenge. Thank you. And I thought it wouldn't be right to have a speech tonight without giving thanks also to Darren Everard, who was a big part of this term and the last. And I doubt you're watching, Darren, even though we're having an online meeting at night. But thank you for the good times that we had. I often referred to him as the fun uncle. And thank you for your constant encouragement, friendship and guidance that you gave to me when I started. And over the years, I greatly appreciated it. And it's been wonderful to welcome Jan into the role, who has done a great job so far. Thank you, Jan. Now, I've had a bit more to do with Jade over the years, so I thought I'd save that. So when Jade told me that she was thinking about not running for council again, I was really disappointed. I asked her to continue, but that was probably more out of my own selfish reasons, because she's an excellent councillor and does a fantastic job representing the community and the council. Of course, though, I want her to do whatever is best for her and her family, so I support her in her decision, but I still don't like it. Jade has clearly demonstrated strength, courage, compassion and kindness throughout her tenure on council, fearlessly taking on challenges and never shying away from making difficult decisions. Jade has an incredible ability to navigate through obstacles with grace and determination while striving for excellence for her division and the region as a whole. Having known Jade, her husband Michael and their family for many years now, I've had the privilege of witnessing firsthand her dedication to making a difference in the community that she lives and serves in. I'm fortunate that this isn't the first time I've had the opportunity of working alongside Jade. This is actually the third, and each experience only further confirms her commitment to whatever role she undertakes and to her family. Jade possesses a unique and ingenious way of thinking, always approaching problems with outside-the-box solutions that achieve great outcomes. And despite facing the sometimes bureaucratic hurdles and the occasional setback, fix the park toilet, Jade's resilience and perseverance have been truly admirable. Sorry, there was a cough there. Jade's presence on the council, particularly as a lone female voice amidst a predominantly male landscape, has brought invaluable perspective and diversity to our deliberations, until, of course, Darren stepped down and lovely Jan joined our team also. In my personal opinion, Jade stands out as one of the finest, if not the finest, councillor to have held office. Her tireless work ethic, unwavering dedication and relentless pursuit of excellence have set a high standard and big shoes to fill. So thank you, Jade, for everything you've done for the Fraser Coast, and you'll be missed, but your impact will resonate long after you've left this chamber. So here's to you and your journey ahead. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank, and I'm nearly getting there, Ken, to thank the key staff that we work with, being the CEO and directors, Ken, Jared, Devendra, Mark and Keith. I also acknowledge that there is a stack of staff around you all and helping you also that are great at what they do, and we know nothing wouldn't happen if it wasn't for the hard work and commitment of all the staff across the organisation. But as you are each the representatives of those staff and the closest staff that we as councillors get to work with, thank you for your efforts over this last term. It is truly appreciated. So to the councillors running for re-election, I wish you the best in your endeavours, and to the candidates out there, good luck. Thanks everyone for a great term. We don't always get to see eye to eye, but that's democracy. And thankfully though, when we do come out of the chamber, we can still work with each other, share a drink and move on with life. So the next term will no doubt see a new and different mix in this chamber, but I'm looking forward to it. Change can be exciting sometimes, and I think there's some great times ahead for the Fraser Coast. I'd like to finish up with this verse from Galatians 6 verse 9. Let us not weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So I see that as a fitting for us here. We have different ideas, but we all want to achieve the best outcome for our region. So continue doing good, no matter what you do, and don't give up. So thank you, good night, and God bless.
Thank you, Councillor Truscott. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Wellings.
Thank you. Paul, what do I owe you for that speech? Paul mentioned earlier that he had written something and I hadn't done that and realised that this was my last chance. I'm a little bit tired today. But I did just jot some notes down and some things that I just wanted to quickly share. I wanted to say that I've really enjoyed my time on council, and if people ask me on the street, oh, have you had enough? The answer is definitely not. I've really, really enjoyed it. And had I not had other opportunities that were really exciting to me, I'd still be wanting to fulfil this role. I've had the opportunity to enjoy very respectful and constructive relationships here in the council, which I think benefit the entire community, and that is a credit to everybody here in this room today. I'd like to thank my councillor colleagues for their support over the last 4 years, particularly in helping me to achieve some of my goals during my term, fix the park. Just wait, you see. Thank you especially also to Ken and Mark DeBenford, Jared and Keith, and pardon me for using first names for that. We have suspended standing orders, but it's been really great to work with all you guys. Your professionalism and your assistance over the years has been really, I guess, really very much appreciated by myself. And also, if you could pass my thanks on to your teams of wonderful people as well. They get back to us really quickly. They take care of our people. I would like to also wish Councillor Lee and Councillor Lewis all the best in their next new endeavours and whatever they're going to do. And I'm sure both of you, even in retirement and with David Lee's new challenge, I'm sure you'll both be still serving the community in other ways because you can't help yourselves. And I'd like to also thank everyone, current sitting councillors, Mayor, for putting their hand up again to serve the community and to wish them well, and also thank and wish well all of the new candidates who have also put their hand up to serve. Everyone, whether it's a new candidate or a sitting councillor, is putting their time, their money, standing in the hot sun if they're out in Harvey Bay under the Westpac awning in Maryborough to try and serve this community, and I think that's pretty special. And I think we should be really grateful that there's people, good people in our community that want to do that. So thank you to everyone, and it's not goodbye, it's see you soon.
Any further speakers?
It's always dangerous. Look, I was looking at something today on a previous thing, and David Lee spoke for 8 minutes without any beeps. But anyway, yes, I can give you the reference. Thanks so much for your kind words. And yes, you will be hopefully seeing a little bit of me because I don't know that it's public information. Well, it's public, I don't know whether you know, but I've been appointed to the board of Regional Development Australia, Waibay Burnett. So I'm happy to be able to sort of, I guess, help the community, the Fraser Coast community in that capacity, which is great. But that wasn't what I was going to say. Thanks. I just want to begin with some thank yous, if I may. And first, a heartfelt thanks to my wife, Susan. She's been an unwaveringly supportive person over the years, a great campaign manager, an inexhaustible source of advice and suggestions over all that time. Her own experience as a councillor and her years in community have given her insights deeper than mine, I have to confess, and I owe her a lot. Thanks also to my children Bridget and Paul and their partners who, while out of towners, have done a lot behind the scenes. And our friends who helped immensely again during elections and throughout the term with their wise advice and valued perspectives. I've really appreciated the opportunity to work with the Division 6 community and others throughout the region. I've got to know a lot of people well and a lot more, a little less so. They have almost universally been supportive, helpful and understanding. One or two perhaps disagreed with me, and maybe they were right. That's okay. That's the system. I've nonetheless enjoyed every interaction. One of the things I've treasured was the chance to work with several special interest communities, including on advisory committees. These included the Art and Culture Committee, RADF, Heritage, Environment Advisory Group and the Rail Trail Committee. I've learned a lot, and I hope that I've been able to be useful in some small way. Heartfelt thanks to the council staff. They've been wonderful to me, from the CEO, directors and exec managers right through the organisation. Courteous, helpful, patient, kind, even when I've occasionally been a tad abrasive, perhaps. Yeah. I want to place on record my admiration for the team, and I hope the community hears this. We've got some very talented people, smart, hard-working and well-intentioned. Not everyone gets it right all the time. Not everything falls into place, but we'd never achieve anything like what we do achieve without that great pool of real talent. I've loved working with you all, and I hope we see something of each other in the future. It's been an exhilarating experience, and I'd just like to mention a couple of highlights. I'm delighted I had a hand in getting our galleries back on track, better staffed, better resourced, new initiatives like GIRA, the National Art Prize. I've had the opportunity to share in lots of exhibition openings, and I've loved my time with the arts community. The library tour that Councillor Chapman and I went on with senior staff opened our eyes to the possibilities, and I know provided real encouragement for our librarians. We need better libraries for our growing communities, and it's great to see that these are starting to take shape. It was good to establish our Writers' Festival, Lines in the Sand, and I commend it to you all. If we want to be a prosperous region, we have to be a knowledgeable one, and that means engaging in the world of ideas and reading poetry. It's a real satisfaction that the Rail Trail project is going from strength to strength. There have been some lowlights on environmental issues. The field has at least been recognised, unlike a few councils back when we had every portfolio known to man except the environment. But there's so much more still to do in that space. We've made very little progress on better urban development. Any project that starts out with the premise, the first thing we do, let's kill all the trees, is doomed to mediocrity. Our new planning scheme must set better standards. It is possible. You just start with the assumption that you will engineer around a decent vegetation component. And I do worry about the Torquay Tower of Babel, that it may be a case of goodbye Harvey Bay, hello Dubai, but I stress this is a provisional opinion only. Forgive me, but a significant lowlight was the response to my opening prayer motion. That left me exasperated. Religious intolerance is the position of the worst of the world's movements, like Islamic State and Taliban, and it hasn't any place in a modern democracy. It wasn't the most important issue, but I came away feeling we still had some way to go to achieve intellectual and moral maturity. I thank you, my colleagues, and wish you all the best in whatever your future holds for you. If you are back here, there are a few committees to fill, and I'm delighted to see quite a number of you have made election pledges that you want to get involved in various aspects in that regard. We need councillor champions, especially, can I say, for the arts and the environment. And as I mentioned before, it would be great to see some Maryborough councillors on the Heritage Committee. I'm going to wrap it up. When I was first elected, I noticed that many who had previously greeted me with just a polite nod were suddenly interested in my views. For the work of a councillor is important, the community has a vital interest in it, you can change lives. That's why we need to select the best candidates. I'm a fraction disappointed that there are not a lot more people offering themselves for election, but I'm sure we'll get a good council. But all that discussion's for some other time. For myself, I know I'll go back to the status of the polite nod. That's okay, it's the way it is, it's the churn of life. So thank you, everybody. It's been terrific, and I'll finish with a quote, but I can't remember where it's from. Good night and good luck. Thank you.
Any further Any further speakers?
What wasn't?
Councillor Truscott.
Yes, I think my nephew Paul has summed a lot of it up about thanking the three councillors, but I'd like to just thank David Lee, David Lewis and Jade Wellings, the councillors. They've done an excellent job. I'd also, you know, I agree with the comments made about Ken, Gerard, Keith, Mark and Devendra. You know, I'd actually like to say, this is my second term, not in a row, but I reckon this is one of the best councils we've ever seen in this area. I might be a little bit biased, although I'm only one of 11, but I reckon it's excellent. And people say to me, oh, that Mr. Dean, you know, he's this or that, and I'm always sticking up for him because I think he does a great job, and so do the other directors. A really, really good bunch. Thank you very much.
Any further speaker? Councillor Lee?
It'd be remiss of me not to speak. One of the things Councillor Lewis and myself share in common is a love for Edmund Burke. He was actually a lawyer, Irish-trained lawyer and philosopher during the French Revolution. And one of the things that's always stuck with me is the importance that Edmund Burke emphasised, the importance about leaving that social contract and leaving a legacy to the unborn. And I think that that's what a lot of us want to do in life, is leave a legacy to that next generation. And we might all approach that differently and have different viewpoints about that. I also reflect on Aristotle. Aristotle talked about something that's always resonated with me in terms of construction of an argument, putting an argument forward. He talked about logos, ethos and pathos. He talked about logos in terms of construction of an argument with premises and conclusions, pathos being able to raise your argument and argue your point with real passion and conviction, and then ethos is about credibility, having some credibility with making that argument. And we've seen many arguments made over the course of this term of council from a number of different perspectives, people passionately putting forward their views. My observation of this council is, notwithstanding that diversity of views and debates and differences of opinion, this has on balance been a very stable council and a courageous council. There's been some courageous decisions made by this council, a stable council, and I put that down to the self-leadership of each individual councillor. Yes, of course, the mayor has a role in leading council, but each individual self-leadership and being part of a team and providing stable and consistent leadership for the future. When I ran for council, I guess, you know, slogans are quite common when you're running for council. You see the slogans all over the cornflakes, but basically I've worked off an ethos of visible, vocal and active in my community, and that is what I conducted my campaign on, that basis. And through the term of my council, I've endeavoured to live up to that, being visible, vocal and active in the community. That's been so important in terms of maintaining a consistency of engagement with the community and that connection with the people that you represent in the community. Otherwise, you don't get to understand the tone of your community when you're making representations on their behalf. So to me, that's been really important, to live up to what I said I would do in terms of being visible, vocal and active in the community. It was on that basis that I defeated a two-term incumbent, and I had an obligation to live up to that ethos that I'd set myself in terms of my time on council. It's also said, we've been talking about sayings tonight, success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan. Just on the point of unpacking that success has many failures, success has many fathers. Success has many fathers. What that means to me is that my successes at council, whether they've been big or small, has been on the basis of collaboration and engagement with my colleagues on important matters. And I've worked particularly well with some colleagues, and that's been the secret of my success, having collaborated and engaged with fellow councillors. There's another great saying which I'm very fond of. It's called Man in the Arena, and it was written by Theodore Roosevelt. It's so true. It's those timid souls that spectate, and we know who they are. There's many people that put their hands up to run for council, and that's the richness and diversity of our democracy. But there's always people who will stand by, those timid souls who will stand by and criticise those people who are making a commitment to stand up and represent their communities. And I'd just like to give a word to those prospective councillors in the future to not shy away from their convictions and representing their communities to the best of their abilities, and to ignore the timid souls and get in there, get into the blood and sweat and tears, get into the fight and stand up for what you believe. And success is a product of working with others, believing in yourself, having that self-belief and collaborating with your colleagues and having the confidence to stand up and represent community. And that's what makes a good council, each individual being willing to be engaged with their community and stand as a unified council. I've had the privilege of serving on 2 committees the entire term. I've seen councillors come and go on those committees. Privileged to serve on audit and risk and water and waste management, and thanks very much, we've got the directors here. You don't know what you've missed out on. It's been a great experience. Yes, we've been confronted with 300 and 400 page agendas, but it's I found it a very worthwhile experience that I've enjoyed, and I commend the staff for their input into that. I'd also like to thank the many staff, and with due respect to the directors and the CEO, I want to thank the staff at the coalface that work so hard for our community, quite often confronted with abuse, that do just a fantastic job. Yes, I know every now and again I would get a little bit frustrated and nag to get jobs done, but it really is appreciated, the hard work that they put in on so many fronts, so many services that are provided to our community. And on balance, people really appreciate in the community, from what I'm hearing, the great work that they do. Last but not least, I'd like to thank the love of my life, Gillian, who I've been married to just this year 40 years. And like Councillor Lewis, I get frank advice. She's pretty well on the money, and for someone that's had nothing to do with local politics, I get some very sensible and prudent advice. I'd also like to thank Jade Wellings, who I've had the privilege of working closely with on my time on council, and yes, the lone lady that's been on council who's just done a sterling job. I really value your independence and that out-of-the-box thinking that we thought. I'm sure your father's very proud of you. If I had a daughter, I'd be very proud of you. So thanks, Jade, for the contribution that you've made to the community. You certainly, from what I've observed, been willing to come through and make courageous decisions and really speak up for what you believe in. So I look forward to seeing more of that diversity. Jan's put her hand up to run as well, so that's a good thing. I think it's, you know, I might have a view of the world that says diversity is not just based on gender, but there's no doubt that we've got meritorious people in our community of both genders who are able to provide constructive, consistent and really sound advice to council in setting the future direction. So last but not least, thanks, Mr Mayor. Thank you for your term of leadership. I'm sure that we'll leave that to the voters and the electorate for the next term, but appreciate the constructive discussions we've had throughout the term. And perhaps I look forward to working with you in a different capacity in the future. Thank you.
Any further speakers? Councillor Chapman.
Mr Mayor, this is, I could use Councillor Truscott's speech, which sounded pretty good, but I'll take this one from the cuff here. Councillor Lewis, you and I, we always have a bit of fun with a bit of banter and everything, but it's all goodwill. It's all about the other side of the story, and it's all about making what we do in council an enjoyable part of it. I think we've got to be careful we don't get bogged down in the runnings of how strict this job could be, and I think that's brought a lot of joy and a lot of comradeship between all our councillors. And there's a comment said earlier that this has probably been the best council that we've been in, and I'm sure that other councillors over the years will say the same, that they've been in pretty good councils. But I would like to say that I feel it's the same way that the comradeship that we've had around the table, the different points that we've put back and forwards, working the budgets out and working what we're going to spend money on and what we're not going to spend money. I saw backwards and forwards how we were working things out there, but we all come out to the conclusion of this is the right thing by our community. So Councillor Lewis, I've had a long time association with yourself. Even the night that with the floods down in Torquay Road, where I was in Apex and I come along and helped you sandbag when your office was going to look like it was going to flood, and things going back to those years. But Councillor Wellings, it was great that when you joined council, that I realised that I actually went to school with Jade's mum. So that just shows you the difference between the knowledge of Jade's mother and at my age and Jade. So it's that's a generation, I'd say, of knowledge coming behind us. But it's great to have knowledge like that coming behind us, and thank you, and I wish you all the best in your future ventures. And Councillor Lee, I have to thank you also. I really treat you as a friend, and but I treat you as a friend that actually helps guide me along. We've been on the hospice committee, and I just like to get things done. And while we're on the hospice committee, you were virtually helping me guide this project through. And with your background and knowledge and everything like that, and I really appreciated that over the time, and I will never forget that. But the hospice grew into a building now that over 400 people have used, and we virtually had to walk out of the room and let the other councillors make a decision on a venture that we could see that was going to be helpful for our community. But also Councillor Wellings and Councillor Lee, with the new building. I've been standing out in the sun campaigning for the elections, and there's people out in the community that don't like our new building. They think that the new building for the new library and the disaster management centre and the admin building for our staff where they're going to be working, it wasn't a good idea. There's not many of them, but there's a couple out there. And you know what? I am so proud that this building is going ahead, because this is going to be something that we're going to leave as a legacy, this council, for our community. And people will look back at us like they look back at Maryborough and say about the sewage, without putting sewage on in Maryborough. They'll look back at this, and I hopefully, as we've got this council coming together, I hope that this will bring Maryborough and Hervey Bay and the whole region together, and we'll get all our engineers and everyone working in this building, and I think it's going to be great. And we've got to be strong to move forward with we make a decision, we move forward with it, and we've done the homework on it. So thank you very much. We've both been on the Hinkler committee with me, and I just hope they invite us all back. Whoever's in this term this year that doesn't want to move forward, that I just hope they invite us back when the ribbon's been cut, because we were the people that made the decision to do this for the community. So thank you, Mr Mayor, for your time, and appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Any further speakers? Councillor Haggie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As the new kid on the block, I'll be short and sweet. I've had 6 months, actually today, 6 months from the 6th of September, that I've been here working together and thoroughly enjoying this experience. I really want to thank all of the councillors for giving me this opportunity. It has been awesome. To the 3 retiring, whatever you're going on to, all the best. I have no idea what's going to happen from the 16th of March, so I'd just like to make that point and say that I've enjoyed it, and I certainly hope that I am here to continue to serve the community for the next 4 years.
Any further speakers? Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and thank you for this time to my colleagues to be able to speak to, especially 3 fellow colleagues that have made an incredible impact in this region, and of course our staff here tonight and that aren't here. But I won't say to be short, because I might not be, but I just wanted to say to my colleagues, firstly, David Lewis. Dave, like, you're a man of great wisdom and you're very professional, and I think you've helped me a lot over the years in different ways, so I wish you and your wife all the best in your future and what you do. Yeah, you have made a good impact in our region. Don't ever forget that, okay? Jade, Jade, you're incredibly professional as well. A great friend, but also what you've brought to the table here in this region. I think, leadership to me is it's not about authority, it's not about position, it's about influence, and it's about helping our community, it's about helping others, and you've done that incredibly well. As a friend, you've always been honest with me, but also to staff and to our region, you've always stood up for what you believe in. And there's two types of, I think, leaders and politicians especially. One that goes with pressure and gives in, or one that stands up for what they believe in and stands for that. And you do that exceptionally well. So I wish you the best. I know you'll do well. You love big challenges. So I think you'll do exceptionally well in what you do. And David Lee, I think, as said, my colleagues would all agree, you're very, very, very professional as well. And you aren't scared to have a go. You aren't scared to fight for what you believe in. And I think that is what makes a great leader. Ones that, like we spoke about before, and an inheritance is what we can leave with our kids or with our community, but a legacy is what you leave in them. And I think when you can leave a legacy for people to enjoy and to be a part of, we've all done our job. And I think it's never about us. It's always about the people that we serve. And I think as colleagues, you all do that very, very well. So I wish you all the best, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of not just our council, but each other and our staff and our community. Thank you for what you've done for our region.
Any further speakers? Councillor O'Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel it would be remiss of me not making any comments. I'd just like to say that what I have been most impressed about with the three of you is your work ethic and your contribution that the contributions that all three of you made in workshops, in ordinary meetings, in agendas, all of the time. You were work, work, work. And that's really appreciated. Really appreciated. Thank you.
Any further speakers? I want to add my thoughts on this council term. Everyone has contributed in their own way. We are 11 people from across the community elected to represent our community, and that has happened since 1861, since the Maryborough Town Council was formed. The people have been elected to carry out the leadership of the local council. The local council has obviously changed in terms of size, scope and functions over those years, but the same spirit remains of members of the community serving through public service on the council. Since 1908, those meetings have been held in this room, which represents public service and contributions and civic affairs. When we started this council term in March 2020, we didn't meet here, we met downstairs in the very socially isolated and what seemed a very, very different world. We have gone through a lot in those 4 years. There has been a lot of changes. We have lived through a pandemic. Our council has faced challenges, our community has faced challenges, and together we have met them. We have met them in a way that I've been very, very proud of everyone's contributions. We're all very, very different, the 11 of us. We all come from very different backgrounds and we contribute in different ways. And the debates have been healthy for that. We don't want people that always agree. People have added to the debate. They've used their prior experience to contribute different ways, and that's all been for the good of the community. I really want to pay tribute to the staff of our organization. We have about 1,000 staff, plumbers to librarians, lifeguards to road workers, people working in the parks, people working in accounts. We are an organization that serves the public in so many different ways to meet the needs of our growing community. So I want to thank all the staff of the Fraser Coast Regional Council who do an amazing job day in, day out for our community. To the 3 retiring councillors, David Lewis, Jade Wellings, and David Lee, you have represented your community extraordinarily well. You brought professionalism, you brought compassion, and new insights to the role, which have been for the good of the community. To everyone involved, all 11 of us have brought a spirit of public service, and I want to thank you for that, what you've done in this room, in the other council chambers, and out in the community, more importantly. Meeting with members of the public about the issues that concern them is vitally important for local government, and in the end, that local government is about service. It's about meeting the needs of the community and making sure this is a community that looks after one another, that is a great place to live, and that is a community where people's needs are met and where we're looking to the future with hope and optimism. So thank you, everyone, for everything you've done this council term, and good wishes for the future. We need to move a motion that we, I'll move that we reconvene standing orders. Seconded, Councillor Paul Truscott. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Is there any further general business? I'll move that we bring forward Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Wellings. Any speakers or questions? I'll put the motion. Move Councillor Lee, seconded Councillor Wellings. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Before I go to the confidential item, I just want to check there's no further general business. Then we're at item 15. Item 16.2.1, but we'll deal with it at 15. I'll move that council move into closed session pursuant to section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 for discussion of the following items for the reasons: 1, in accordance with section 254J3G, it is necessary to close the meeting to discuss ordinary item 16.2.1, variation of Maryborough Landfill Cell 9A construction as it relates to negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government, as this discussion will involve commercially sensitive information relating to other parties. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Paul Truscott. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Whilst in confidential, we discussed item 16.2.1, variation CTWW 0922/23 Maryborough Landfill, Cell 9A construction. There's a mover for the motion, Councillor Lee, seconded Councillor Lewis. Any speakers or questions on this motion? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. That being the final item of business, I'll close the meeting at 7:38. Thank you.